Hey, Jason here from Simply Swider. So, if your Samsung dryer is throwing heat errors, vent codes, or just plain refusing to get hot, don't worry. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to fix it. The good news is that 90% of these heating problems can be fixed with basic tools you already have and parts costing between $10 to $50, saving you hundreds compared to a typical $300 to $600 service call. Before we get started, if you run into any questions, jump into our Facebook group. Links in the description. We've got thousands of people helping each other fix their appliances, and I pop in there daily to help out. So, the most common issue I see is overheating, causing those thermal fuses to blow. You'll know this is happening when you see HC, TC, T5, or TE error codes popping up. Sometimes the dryer just goes completely dead or runs, but won't heat up at all. Here's what's going on. When your dryer gets too hot, those safety components basically sacrifice themselves to prevent a fire. The culprit is almost always a clogged lint screen or blocked vent system. I had this customer last month whose dryer kept blowing fuses, and sure enough, the exhaust vent outside was completely packed with lint. Here's your step by step fix. First, pull out that lint screen and wash it with warm, soapy water. You'd be amazed how much buildup soap residue creates. While it's drying, go outside and check your exhaust vent. You should feel strong airflow when the dryer is running. Then trace that ductwork from the dryer to the outside, looking for kinks, crushing, or lint buildup. Look for that crushed duct behind the dryer, too. Happens all the time when people push the unit back against the wall. If the thermal fuse already blew, you got to replace it because these things don't reset. And here's something most people don't know. Low voltage on electric dryers can also cause heating issues, so if cleaning doesn't solve it, you might need an electrician to check your power supply. Moving on to heating element failures. This is when your dryer spins like normal but puts out zero hot air. What happens is the heating coil inside breaks or severs, and you won't necessarily get a specific error code for this. The tricky part is Samsung dryers might still throw a CL9 vent error even when the real problem is the element. Here's how to test the element. Set your multimeter to the ohms setting and touch the probes to both heating element terminals. A good element should read between 10 to 50 ohms. Most Samsung models show around 38 ohms. If you get no reading at all on your display, the element's completely broken and needs replacement. I remember this guy who replaced his thermistor and cleaned everything twice, but that CL9 code kept mocking him. Turned out the heating element had a charred black coil at the bottom, completely fried. The solution is replacing the entire heating element assembly, but fair warning, newer Samsung models have what I call hostile engineering. They've added extra screws and narrowed the access points, so getting to that element might require tearing down the whole machine. Here's where Samsung dryers get really annoying. False CL9 or C19 error codes that claim your vent is 90% blocked, even when it's completely clear. I've seen people disconnect the vent hose entirely and still get this error. What's happening is either the thermistor sensor is giving bad readings or there's an underlying heating system problem that the dryer is misinterpreting as a vent issue. You can run the vent blockage test and it'll show CL9, C19, C90, or just C9 on the display. If cleaning the vent doesn't clear it, check that thermistor with your multimeter. At room temperature, about 77 degrees, you should see around 10,000 ohms of resistance. If it's way off from that, replace the thermistor. But here's the kicker. Sometimes the thermistor's fine and the real problem is a failed heating element triggering this false vent error. These Samsung control boards can get confused and throw the wrong code, which is why you got to test everything systematically. All right, so what we're dealing with here is Samsung dryers that are either overheating, not heating at all, or throwing those annoying CL9 and HC error codes. Now, I'm going to walk you through these problems from the most common to the trickier ones. Here's the thing, Samsung's got some quirky engineering that can make these dryers throw false error codes, so we're going to tackle this systematically. But first, safety reminder. Always unplug your dryer and turn off the gas if you have a gas model before doing any work. The thermal fuse is your cheapest fix. You're looking at about 25 to 63 bucks depending on where you shop. You can find these at appliance parts stores or order online. This is definitely a DIY friendly repair, probably a 2 out of 5 difficulty wise. It's usually mounted on the blower housing or element housing. And here's the thing, once it blows, it's done. These fuses don't reset like a circuit breaker. so replacement is your only option. The key is making sure you fix whatever caused it to blow in the first place, or you'll just be replacing fuses every few months. The heating element itself costs between $50 to $150 for most Samsung models, but here's the reality check. This repair can take 2 to 4 hours if you need to remove the drum. One customer showed me a $625 quote from a repair company for this same fix. So if your dryer is over 8 years old, you might want to consider replacement instead. The part itself isn't that expensive, but the labor can be brutal on newer models. I'm talking a 4 or 5 out of 5 difficulty because you might need to pull the drum and tear down half the machine just to get to it. Samsung's engineering has gotten more hostile over the years. They've added extra screws and made the access points smaller. If you're handy with tools and got some patience, it's doable, but don't be a hero if you're not comfortable with major disassembly. The Thermistor runs from about 950 up to 36 bucks, so it's pretty reasonable. This one's about a 3 out of 5 for difficulty because you'll need to do some significant disassembly to get to it. It's usually mounted on the back of the blower housing near the motor. Here's what you're testing for. 10,000 ohms at 77 degrees Fahrenheit, and it should be within 10% of that. The tricky part with thermistors is they can test good but still give intermittent problems, so sometimes you gotta trust your gut if everything else checks out, but you're still getting temperature errors. If you end up needing the main control board, you're looking at about 159 bucks for most models. This is definitely a 5 out of 5 complexity repair. We're talking high level stuff here. The control board can cause all kinds of weird issues like unresponsive buttons, cycle errors, or power problems. But before you go down this road, make sure you've tested everything else because control board failures are way less common than the other parts we've talked about. Now you can see on the screen right now some of the most common Samsung dryer models that run into these issues. Take a look, you might even spot your own model up there. From what I've seen in my repair work, these problems aren't limited to just one series. They span across different model lines, so don't think you're safe just because your model's not listed. That's how you tackle Samsung dryer heat and vent errors. Here's your troubleshooting roadmap. Start with a thorough vent cleaning. This fixes 60% of heating issues. Then test your thermal fuse with a multimeter for continuity. Next, check the heating element for proper resistance. Finally, test the thermistor for 10,000 ohms at room temperature. Work through these steps in order and you'll nail down the problem every time. Remember, those false CL9 codes can really throw you off, so don't get fooled into thinking it's always a vent problem. If this helped you save a few $100 on a service call, hit that like button and drop a comment below. Let me know which fix worked for you. Really helps other people with the same problem. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. We'll get this out to more folks who need to save some time and money. Thanks for watching, and I hope you guys have a great day.